Adventist mission in the West African country of Benin, a mission plane making a difference in the South Pacific, and the Global Center for Adventist-Muslim Relations. All that and much more coming up next on Global Mission Snapshots.
Just before he went up to heaven, Jesus gave us a command. He gave us a mission. Jesus said, "Go. Go unto all the world, telling them of His love." This is our mission. This is our global mission.
Hello, I'm Gary Krause, and welcome to Global Mission Snapshots. On today's program, we'll introduce you to people on the front lines of mission, finding new and fresh ways to share the old story. Today, we'll be talking with Nancy Kyte about the country of Benin in West Africa. We'll see how some Korean Adventists are literally touching the lives of lepers in China. And we'll talk with Lester Merklin, Director of the Global Center for Adventist-Muslim Relations. But first up, let's visit Papua New Guinea, where we'll see a mission plane in action and learn about how 13th Sabbath offerings are making a difference.
It's early morning before dawn. The Adventist aviation plane is parked in the hangar. Daniel, our pilot, arrives and gets the aircraft ready for its first mission today. Fasten your seatbelts as we taxi to the runway. This is another day of mission service. We are flying northeast over Papua New Guinea at an altitude of 10,000 feet. It's fairly warm in the plane, and it's a gorgeous morning out the window. Papua New Guinea is one of the most culturally diverse places on Earth, with pristine, teeming jungles, jagged mountains, deep valleys, and turbulent rivers. It's one of the least developed and most traditional countries on this planet, where people live much as they have for thousands of years. And we are on our way to a remote place in the highlands of New Guinea to visit a small village. Look down, there it is. We're approaching our first destination. The villagers are always happy to see us. These two children even made model airplanes as a sign of admiration for the aviation service. The cargo is quickly unloaded here, and we are off to our next appointment. The Seventh-day Adventist plane travels the local towns and villages where it is very hard to reach with food, supplies, and medicines for the clinics. By plane, we can cover distances in an hour, where it would have taken weeks in the past. And for some villages, it's the only way in, as there are no roads. On our next stop, we will surprise the people with a very unique gift, a lawnmower. It may seem a trivial tool, but to the local people, it will provide a way to maintain their surroundings, gardens, plantations, and even a clear runway for the plane. They seem very excited with the new gift, and after a simple demonstration, they are equipped to continue the work. On our last leg of our trip, we will pick up bags of crops. The airplane will transport the merchandise to the city and bring back means to provide for this community's survival. Your mission offering supports projects like these every day, and it helps thousands of people to get connected with the Seventh-day Adventist Church and experience firsthand the love of God. Please pray and continue to support Adventist mission.
Dr. Lester Merklin is the Director of the Global Center for Adventist-Muslim Relations, and he's also our guest on today's program. Lester, thank you so much for joining us. Just a few minutes ago, I was talking with someone who said to me, you know, one of the problems in the Adventist Church is that so many people have negative feelings about Muslims. And I think that this is fair across the spectrum of Christian churches. Why do you think that there is this feeling of antipathy toward Muslims?
Well, obviously there's a long history, ever since way back to the nation of Israel in the Old Testament times. and on through history, there's been tensions. But that has been really exasperated in our own lifetime with wars, with misunderstandings, with sides being taken. And even though the Christian world and the Muslim world will say, hey, we're based on peace, mm-hmm. and not forcing anybody to believe like we believe. But humans are humans, and we start marking our turfs. And today it's quite strong, especially since 9/11. Mm-hmm. And that's not just from an Adventist or a Christian viewpoint. The Muslims in North America, especially the ones that I've talked to in the Detroit area, they are very concerned by what that kind of action caused in people's minds about Islam as a whole.
Right.
And of course, not all Islam, every Muslim is the kind that's going to do those kinds of things. Mm. But that's the image we get. That's the media that is presented because it makes headlines.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we try to build bridges of understanding between Christians and between Muslims, but there are major differences. What are some of the major differences in our beliefs?
Well, the things that have kept a Muslim from understanding where a Christian stands in their faith is especially things like our understanding of God being visible or it's three, the Trinity concept. Sure, and we can understand that. That's hard to understand, how you can really believe in one God and yet He seems to have presented Himself in three persons. And so that would be item number one that would cause a Muslim to say, Christians really can't be monotheists. They can't really believe in one God, even if they claim to. Mm-hmm. So that's a major item. And then the concept that Jesus, who is very highly respected in Islam.
And seen as a prophet.
And seen as a prophet. By some of them, even the highest prophet. Even though the Quran says there are no differences between prophets. Still, he's a prophet that healed. He's a prophet that had a special relationship with God. The Quran says he's a prophet who came from God. So those things we could say, yes, we have similar ways of looking at Jesus. But the idea that God would have to work out a plan where God would have a death to cover our sins, that is very hard for our Muslim neighbors to understand. God is God, and if we say we're sorry, He has the right to be able to say, okay, I forgive you.
Right.
And I can understand that concern when they have not heard the whole reason of why we understand Jesus' death.
And as I understand it, part of the role of the center that you direct is to help us explain more clearly and more attractively why we believe the way we do, so that Muslims can understand it.
Sure. I would say our two biggest reasons for being a center is, number one, to help Adventists understand who their Muslim neighbor is so that they can be the friends that a Christian ought to be. Yeah. And secondly, that the Muslim can understand who Adventists are, and our stand at being completely submitted to God and doing what God wants us to and preparing for the judgment just like they understand. Mm-hmm. And therefore we can have that friendship even though we see some things very different. Yeah.
Now, if someone's viewing this program and they have a Muslim neighbor, but they're shy they're not sure where they should start in talking, because they don't want to give offense or anything, because as you say, they come from different views in some ways. What are some of the things we need to keep in mind in relating? I mean, obviously we need to be human and loving and all that, but
that's what I was going to say. Okay. First of all, Gary, I think all of us have to remember that they're human.
Of course.
Many of them are maybe a short time in America, for instance. Yeah. We all know what it's like when we are in a new area, different culture, different things happening, you feel lost. And to have a real live American in Chicago, New York, Detroit, Los Angeles saying, hey, I'm your neighbor. will go a long ways to make friends, because they are human and they have the same needs that we have. When it comes to cultural ways, we need to respect, obviously. Our culture isn't perfect. No one's culture is perfect, and yet every culture has good things. I'm glad that I spent 6 years living in Pakistan. I learned some things about community, of friendship, social hospitality that sometimes we don't think of here. So
and you also had some very good food.
Excellent food, and we still eat every chance we can get.
Lester, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really appreciate it. And if you want to find out more about the types of things that Dr. Merklin has been sharing with us, you can go to our website at islam.adventistmission.org, islam.adventistmission.org, and there you'll find some resources, some information that will help you understand more the sort of things that Dr. Merklin has been sharing with us, because our Muslim brothers and sisters are there to be our friends. It's my pleasure to welcome my colleague and friend Nancy Kyte, who is the Marketing Director for Adventist Mission. Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Nancy, our topic today is the country of Benin.
Yes.
Now, in case there's any viewers who may not know exactly where that is, can you describe its location?
It is in West Africa, you know, kind of where that shape, that little hump comes out. It's right in the middle part of that. It borders the ocean.
Okay, now, some 20-something years ago, I went to Benin, and I remember it as being the capital of voodoo, and I went to the town of Ouida, and they have a temple to voodoo, etc. How prevalent is voodoo still today?
Oh, it's still very prevalent. And I was told that many children are dedicated to voodoo just as soon as they're born. So it's still part of their life.
But the Adventist Church is very active in that country, planting churches. Tell me about a village that you visited.
Well, we had a chance to visit a village, or a city actually, called Parakou.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't just a small village.
No, it was in the central part of the country, and we drove, you know, many hours to get there. But it was interesting because we wanted to see this area because 10 years ago there was no Adventist presence there. A global mission pioneer had gone there, worked hard, and was able to start a very small congregation, and now there's a thriving church there.
Good. And the pioneer, is he still there, or is it...
That pioneer has actually gone on to work in other areas, so they're on, I think, their second or third pastor. But this pastor that they have now was himself a pioneer in another area prior to coming there.
Wonderful. For those viewers who may not be familiar with Global Mission Pioneers, these are lay people who don't have extensive theological training, but they get a basic training and they go out with one goal, and that is to start a new Seventh-day Adventist congregation in a new area. And they don't get paid a whole lot. They get a living stipend, which is enough to put food on the table, give them some basic resources. And for me, at least, when I meet a pioneer, it's always an amazing experience because they are sacrificing on what they're doing.
They sure are, and their family sacrifices
Exactly.
too.
Now, Nancy, they have some plans. The church has some plans in that area?
Well, yes, they do. As the church has grown, they've tried to see, you know, what they can do to impact the community around them. And it so happens that at their union, or at the Benin mission, they were also wanting to figure out how can they spread out their influence, how can they help Adventism grow there, and they were looking for a place to put a school. They weren't exactly sure where it should go.
Okay. Now, I'm guessing it's going to be in this city.
You guessed right.
Now, before we go on to that, you brought a video clip, and I want to see this video clip because it's going to be proof that you're actually there.
Well, yes. And that I tried to do something new. I'd never done this before.
Oh, good. Well, let's see if we can see this video clip.
Yes.
Describe what we're seeing here.
Well, these ladies are pounding yams. It's a white yam. And I came along, we had just eaten at a restaurant, and I wanted to say, you know, I enjoyed the food. And they were laughing, and I heard pounding, and I heard chopping noises. So I just stuck my head in to wave hello, and they invited me to give it a try. And that is hard work, believe me.
Well, Nancy, I'm very impressed. You look like you're a natural.
Well, it was actually quite humiliating because I thought I was stronger than that.
Yeah, well, that's hard work to get the meal on the table.
Yes, it is.
So they have plans to start this school. How are they going to do it?
Well, this is an interesting thing, and it just shows how God is always behind the scenes and at work. Now, there was a village there, and the chief and his councilman had been wondering for a long time, how can they make things safer for their children? How can they get a school closer so that their children wouldn't have to walk on the busy highway to school? There is no school bus. Most of the people in this village don't have cars, and so there's little choice but for the children to walk on this extremely busy road. I mean, they have to walk on the very edge and share the road with, you know, cross-country trucks and motorcycles and so on. Their parents are all farmers, and so they're working on their crops all day. So there's this worry constantly about them. So the chief one day had a thought, and he ran it by his council members and said, you know, I have property. I would be willing to donate some of it if we could get someone to put a school on there, but who are we going to find? And this is the part, of course, that no one knew, or at least the chief didn't know, and that is that the church officials were wondering where in Benin they would put their first school, and of course, that was the property that the chief had been willing to gift to them. Beautiful property, and they've already started working on it in faith. Some of the foundations have been built. The chief has a real desire that this church this school have electricity, because he says, we want it to be a light in the darkness.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Now, he's thinking of it as being a literal light, and they want to have classes for children during the day, and at night then they want to have classes for adults for literacy programs.
Right. And of course, for the church, it's going to be a light as well.
It's going to be a light also for the church. And part of the 13th Sabbath offering in first quarter of 2014 is going to help support and fund this school.
Wonderful. Now, Adventist education is all through the world, but this is the first school that will be built in Benin. The
first school that anyone has any recollection of, and I didn't find any record that there had been an Adventist school there.
Yeah, and this is in an area where Christianity is not the dominant religion.
It's true, and it is not the dominant religion, and yet they know that this will be an Adventist Christian school. They know that there will be Adventist teachers, and they are eager to welcome them.
Fantastic. Nancy, thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you.
What a tremendous opportunity to provide education for the people in this city in Benin. Please pray for this initiative, and if you want to find out more about this project as it continues on, there will be reports on our website, and you can find that at adventistmission.org. Easy to remember, adventistmission.org.
In the country of China, the situation of the lepers has become a great tragedy. There are 600 colonies and more than 250,000 lepers.
感到心灵上有一些震撼，还有一些。
The first time I saw the lepers and I looked upon their faces, I felt a great pain inside my heart. But I felt called to serve them because they are the sons and daughters of God. These people were abandoned by society, and they feel that they don't belong. Our goal is to help them feel special, that they are loved, but we also want them to know that Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice for them, that they are redeemed, and there is a kingdom for them.
I went to China in 2006 and saw the situation with the lepers and found out that not one Adventist was working to help them. I wanted to do something to help. We are involved with 18 projects, and we have more than 70 volunteers. We live among the people in the colony, we eat with them, we serve them.
Jesus Christ served the people. He provided for their needs. That is what we are trying to do here. We want to help these people and to provide for their needs, just like Jesus did.
So far, 327 lepers have been baptized. My goal is to train these new converts to serve and help other lepers.
The first time we touch the wounds of the lepers, it helps them to feel that someone cares about them. Through this, we are showing the love of Jesus to them. We are earning their trust.
If you enjoyed these images of mission, I'm sure you'll want a copy of the new Adventist Mission Calendar. This beautiful calendar will keep the people and places of mission in front of you every day of the year. So if you live in North America, please accept this free gift as a small thanks for your prayers and support. Just call toll-free 1-800-648-5824 or visit our website and ask for the Adventist Mission Calendar or offer 305. That's adventistmission.org and ask for the calendar or offer 305. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. Thank you again for your continuing support of Adventist Mission through your prayers, personal involvement, and finances. As we close, I hope you find inspiration for mission in this video. For Adventist Mission, I'm Gary Krause, and I hope you can join us next time on Global Mission Snapshots.